I like to say where I got the idea to read the book. Sometimes it's just browsing in the library and seeing something on the shelf and going ahead and reading it, and that's been really good. I've found some things I really loved that way. Anyway, this one, Evelyn Waugh, Scoop. This one was recommended on a podcast by Matt Taibbi, the journalist. So I would say if you're a journalist, you might like this book. If you're not a journalist, your results might vary. My results varied. I plotted through the whole thing, and it's not very long. It's 275 pages. I always know the page counts of these books. It's 275 pages, and it could have been a little shorter. I thought the characters were quite thin. I could not really see any of the characters or feel that they were at all real in the fiction or real enough to go along with and enjoy. It had it had a feel of, well, it's from 1938, so it's not that's disconnects it from reality in any sort of way or makes it less good, except in this case it quite had the feel of, more of a movie, like a farcical movie from that period. The characters were kind of thin. It's supposed to be sort of funny, and the good part of it is it does talk about fake news in a sense. What the story is it's all about this new newspaper mogul, Lord Copper, who is kind of he's a guy that's writing a newspaper and whatever, and they need somebody to go to Africa. There's a struggle in an African country between, the Reds, fascists, and the people who live there, the regular citizens. So they need to send a special correspondent because all the other papers are sending correspondents to this country, this fake country. And which I think was reading some about the book and the setup. Apparently Evelyn Waugh actually was a correspondent to Ethiopia during the 30s, which was the Italian fascists were involved there, so forth. So that apparently was the thrust, the takeoff point for the story for him. So we have this guy, Boot, William Boot, is mistaken for this other John Boot, this novelist who has a friend who is well placed, a woman who persuades her connections with the newspaper to send this John Boot to Africa to do this assignment because it would be, good for him and good for his career and so forth. And she likes him. So that's all muddled by the management of the lower management of the newspaper, in that they realize they have a William Boot on staff who writes these little human interest stories about his life out in the country somewhere. He lives out there somewhere, not in London. So this guy, William Boot, is sent for and brought into London, and he doesn't know what's going on, and all of a sudden he's being sent off to Africa to cover this story with no experience at all. He brings all this stuff with him. He has an expense account from the newspaper, so he buys all this stuff, like this boat, this canoe, the sort of foldable canoe that he buys, in the 1930s, I don't know, and all this stuff, crates of stuff that he takes. And it's a big trip to get there. First he has to fly somewhere into France, I guess, and then he goes by a train and then on to a boat or whatever, and finally gets there. And there are other journalists there, and there's the journalists kind of just, drink a lot and so forth. Ultimately, he ends up kind of finding out, getting stories in a sort of haphazard way, just kind of accidentally, and becomes celebrated back home. So that's kind of a giveaway of what goes on here, because and I'm giving it away because, well, I didn't like the book very much, so I wouldn't recommend reading it. Whatever Matt Taibbi. If you're a journalist, you might like it. So because it's very inside journalism in that kind of way. So because all the other journalists are there, and they don't know what they're doing, and don't know what to do, and there's not really a war going on. There's sort of a rumor of war and sort of a implication of war, and he ends up, accidentally coming to a story that he sends back home, and it becomes a big sensation. And while he's there, he meets a German woman who is her husband has gone off somewhere, and so he has big kind of a romance. He falls in love with the German woman, who's kind of treats him, gets some money from him, and when she finds out her husband is really going to be coming back, she kind of unloads him and goes off with her husband. There is, as I said, the characters in this are really weak. I thought, I don't even know what age this William Booth is supposed to be. The descriptive, there's no inside at all. I like novels that go inside characters to some degree, even like mystery and crime novels and so forth. A lot of them do a lot better job than this one did. Like the Simon Brett mysteries, like the one about the clutterer, the declutterer that I just read recently. I mean, the characters in there are really, were quite interesting and kind of fleshed out in a way, even though it was a short novel. And this one, no, it was just like a movie. And actually, someone else, when I don't like something, I'll kind of got it good in. I think, is it just me? Is there something wrong with me? Am I too stupid to get this book? So I'll go on Goodreads and read the 2 stars and the 1 stars and see what they say. And one person actually did say "carry on" in Islam, or whatever the name of the fake country. Called it "Carry On" in, and referring to the Carry On movies. Well, oddly enough, I watched a Carry On comedy for the first time last night. The Carry On, there was a big series of movies, I guess, from, well, maybe even the 50s, at least the 60s, through the 60s into the 70s, of these comedy movies in various situations. And I watched Carry On Camping last night from 1970, and it was pretty funny, actually, and I enjoyed it. It was completely sexist and stupid. A lot of male gaze. This one older character is leering on these schoolgirls quite a bit. That part was a little weak, but otherwise there's quite a few pretty good gags in it. So it was not bad. I might read and I might watch another Carry On movie more likely than I'm going to read another Evelyn Waugh novel. I understand The Brideshead Revisited is quite good. But while I was also reading this stuff, I was reading about how he was kind of a fascist sympathizer, and how he was really racist and anti-Semitic, which is not surprising for Brit types of that era. So you know, I can tolerate all that stuff and put it in its place, you know, if it's a good book, which this one just wasn't. It was just, you know, like I was glad to be through with it. So, yeah, and it, you know, it has the William guy lives out in a house out in the country with, you know, it's sort of like an Addams Family house or something with all these relatives around, and it's sort of run down, and so that part was a little bit interesting, but all in all, I just did not warm up to Evelyn Waugh's Scoop really very much at all, and but I got through it and I read it, and so you've been warned. You don't have to read Scoop, but you might really like it. I mean, I don't know. I'm just me, and I like what I like, and I don't like what I don't like, and I'm sure all those likes and don't likes and you and me and all these things are not the same, so you might quite enjoy reading Scoop. I like the movie The Loved One, and I guess he wrote The Loved One, so, you know, maybe that's good. I don't know. Maybe I would read The Loved One at some point. I don't know, but so I think that's what we have to say about this book, Scoop. Yeah, you know, the news is all in competition with, and you know, it kind of shows how news is really kind of fake. It's really a product that they'll just sell you whatever is going to sell, or the journalists themselves are going to sell whatever the editors back home are going to bite and pay them for. So you know, it's best to be have a certain doubtful look at the press, which this, of course, gives a doubtful look at the press. So that part of it is pretty good. Yeah, it is racist, and he talks about yids, and the black people in the country are, you know, not there at all. And there's this one woman in the story, and she's kind of like, you know, an object of desire, but, you know, not really much of anything either. So that's it. Scoop. That's the Scoop on Scoop. So you can take 2 dips of that if you want. One chocolate and vanilla or Neapolitan. I think I'll skip having the second helping of Scoop, but enjoy.